Hello everyone, welcome back to Black Heaven, a necromantic dating sim. Let's go ahead and continue. Do they study nature? As in, other things besides humans? They do. They draw from many different disciplines, especially zoology. They're actually quite famous for integrating non-human organs into the body. Ah, interesting. Indeed. Though I must admit I'm likely biased in its favor. The study of immortality, more than any other subject of study, is rich with strange, engaging mysteries to unravel. And if your greatest wish is to truly make your mark on the world, well, even the smallest discovery in that art may have implications on the entire history of humankind. It's not for your average scholar, one who focuses on one tiny fraction of the world and spends their whole life delving into its depths. The study of immortality is for those who wish to learn about the whole world.
That's exciting to me.
I'm glad to hear it. If I become your tutor, I'll be more than willing to help you choose which facet of immortality suits you. But before I get ahead of myself, do you have questions about it?
About what?
Immortality, or the study of it.
There's one thing I've been trying to wrap my head around. You're not immortal, are you?
No, unfortunately not.
Can you tell me what it's like to, I don't know, live, experience? What's it like to live forever?
That's a difficult question, especially for someone young. This may be a bit abstract, but we'll try to explain. Humans. Our mind's perception of time is limited by the patterns that we build our lives around. The seasons, the growth of the body, the rise and fall of empires. These are all little blinks in the eyes of eternity. Even a normal lifetime is a very short span. To you and I are used to measuring the passage of time, the toll of a clock, or the end of a week. All the things stand out. How we felt when we woke up this morning, what we ate, how cold it was when we went outside, things like that. And when we go to bed, we sleep for a few hours and all of those little experiences seep into our dreams. But for someone who is immortal, truly immortal, their minds are attuned to much longer spans of time. They can spend an entire week writing a poem, because to them, a week is nothing. Nights aren't the end of a day. They're little lulls when the sun goes away. Their bodies are used to functioning for days at a time, not hours. And when they dream, many of them say those dreams seem to last for years.
Wow. So waking time is compressed, but time in dreams seems to be stretched.
Well, sometimes. Depends on the person, and how they want to shape their mind. For some, their minds are focused on tiny scales. To them, every hour feels like a day, and a walk to a neighbor's house might feel like years. That's because their perception is so heightened that even the smallest details, sights, smells, sounds, are incredibly rich. Their minds are able to process all those tiny nuances.
But wouldn't something like that make interacting with people kind of difficult?
Oh, it does. You'll try to talk to them and they'll be more interested in a spot of dirt on your hands, because they can tell it's from a river they know. Terracia waves his hands through the air, as if dismissing the subject. I know I'm overwhelming you with the details, but here's the most important thing. There's a reason why immortal people are almost always scholars.
What is it?
You can tell from Rue's tone that she's intrigued and more than a little excited. Because to be immortal, you have to be a strong mind. If you haven't spent years mastering your mind, then being immortal can be overwhelming, or terribly boring. Minds like ours. Tarasia points to himself, then at Rue. We're made for eternity, because we appreciate everything that the world can offer. From cloud patterns to star patterns, growth cycles to geologic cycles, from reality to dreams. So, if you'll have me, I'll be your guide to it. Rue scrambles out of her chair and grabs Master Terrasia's hand.
Please, oh please, tell me where to start.
You hear the low din of hundreds of voices and feel cool air blow over your skin. The faint smell of steaming hot food drifts through the air. You open your eyes and find yourself in one of Itzon's hallways. Sunlight illuminates the inside of the hall, including the familiar figure leaning against the wall, Rue. She's holding a sheaf of papers and rapidly moving her lips as her eyes pass over the page. You walk closer and peer over the top of the papers. A speech? Oh no, what she's giving a speech on? Rue lowers the papers, closes her eyes, and takes a deep breath.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Her eyes open, and she folds up the speech and tucks it in her pocket. She shakes her head, straightens her shoulders, and balls up her hands into fists.
Okay. Here we go.
She strides down the hallway to the door on the far end and pushes it open. You walk closely behind her and follow her into the room beyond, the garden of flesh. The chamber is filled with hundreds of people, students, faculty, and others wearing uniforms different from the ones at Itzon. Foreign guests? Maybe there are mortality scholars too. Rue walks to the edge of the crowd, and the waiter appears at her side with a tray of tall wine glasses. Wine, madam?
Ha!
Rue lets out a surprised yelp and raises her shoulders instinctively. The waiter flinches slightly, but keeps his tray balanced.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You just startled me.
I am terribly sorry, madam. I only wanted to know if you wished for some wine.
Oh, yes, sure.
The waiter lowers the tray and Rue takes a flute. She nods to the waiter, who bows and strides off. Rue sighs and looks around the room, and down at the glass in her hand. You can see that her hand is shaking. She takes a sip from the glass, then sits down on one of the benches placed against the wall. She scans the crowd as if looking for a familiar face. The steady rumble of voices from the gathered scholars is punctuated by sporadic shouts and laughter. Even though you can't make out the words, you recognize the kind of conversations going on. Putting on appearances and airs, pressing strangers, currying favor and ingratiating themselves. Everyone's talking, but no one's really listening. You scowl, but your mood changes when you see Rue's face. Instead of apprehension, you see that her big eyes are filled with longing, almost desperation. Rue gets up slowly and begins walking toward the crowd of people. She makes her way past the outer edges and finds a loose circle of people to join. You follow and stand next to her, listening to the conversation. So of course I told him that the two are quite different. One can kill you, and one can kill you faster. The circle breaks into laughter, and Rue giggles along. Her eyes dart around the group, but no one seems to have noticed her. Anyway, Sharon, how's your work coming along? Oh, the usual trials and tribulations. The other 6 people in the circle listening politely as Jiran goes on about the properties of muscle groups. Rue nods along too, periodically sipping from her glass. You see her perk up and open her mouth to add something, but someone else cuts in before she has a chance. So that's always difficult, but that's the long and short of it. I see. Hold on just a moment. Is that? It is. The scholar lifts up an arm and waves at a passing white-haired woman. Riza! The woman turns, breaks into a smile, and slips into the circle. Oh, Torrens! I didn't know you had arrived yet. Hello everyone, so good to see you. Torrens. You should come with me. We've got a table over in the corner with some seats. The group enthusiastically begins following the white-haired woman toward the far corner of the room, leaving Rue standing alone in a large empty space in the crowd. Rue watches the people take seats at a large round table and laugh at some unheard joke. She glances around and then her eyes fall to the floor. Having fun? Barros, Master Barros. Rue lifts her eyes and spots a weathered-looking old man with a thick mustache walking toward her. Master Barros! The man crosses the open space and wraps Rue in a one-armed hug. So, this is your party, eh? It's a big one. I guess so. I haven't really spoken to anyone. I'm glad you came. Of course I came. I'm your mentor. So you get half the credit, don't I? Half of this party's mine. Rue laughs and lightly slaps the man's arm. I was the one in the workshop for 12 hours a day. And I was the one who told you to leave once in a while. I think that's worth something, even if you never listen to me. Oh, don't be like that. You're all the company I need. Well, then I guess we can tell all these distinguished scholars and faculty members that they can go back to their quarters. I'll leave the wine to me then. No, not before I go on stage. I have a speech prepared. Ah, so you're going through with it then. Yes, I am. I've been practicing it for the past few days. Then I think you'll do just fine. How's your grading going? Slower, without you to help me. But that's just how I used to do it, so I can't complain. There are some real idiots in my class. Don't say that, that's mean. So what? I'm supposed to tell these grown adults that can't tell their all-knows from their femurs that they're smart, talented young scholars? They've been hearing that their whole lives. Time for someone to tell them that they're stupid and that it won't be tolerated. Drink some more wine, you're still too grumpy. Perhaps, to be honest, despite my attempts to lay claim to it, this wine is quite disgusting. Rue giggles and holds up her flute. It's elderflower. My choice. It's an acquired taste, but I like it. Your choice? I thought elderflower is toxic. It's part of a devious scheme to kill us all at the moment of your triumph. No, it's fine if you distill it correctly. I guess I'll have to bear it. Rue and Master Barra stand there in silence for a few seconds, looking over the crowd. Someone passes by and raises their glass. Master Barras! Barras raises his glass in a half-hearted salute and sighs. This really is quite an amazing party they put together for you. A number of alumni and teachers from the branch schools have come. Safe to say that you're all the talk of the town right now. Barras turns to Rue and raises his eyebrows. I should screenshot this. How does it feel? Rue gives a bashful smile and looks around again.
A little surreal, to be honest, and a little lonely.
Well, once they get a look at you, they'll be climbing over themselves to talk to you. Some of them will want to talk to you because they think you'll make them look more intelligent by association, while others, they'll appreciate what you've done. Perhaps you'll find someone who understands you.
The toll of a clock sounds, and the clamor of the guests dwindles slightly. It's starting.
You head to the podium. I'll find my way closer.
Rue strains her jacket and pulls out the folded speech from her pocket. Wish me luck.
You'll do fine.
You follow Rue as she slides through the crowd toward one of the statues. You realize with a start that you recognize it. The statue is of a tall man with outstretched arms. He's well-muscled, with 4 eyes arranged in 2 columns down his face, and a single line of eyes running down the center of his torso. That's the model Lee showed me in the garden years ago. A large podium has been erected in front of the statue, along with a small stage that raises it above the crowd. The dean is already ascending the steps to the podium when Rue arrives near the front of the assembly guests. The room goes silent as the dean raises his hands. Welcome to all students in the faculty of Itson Academy, scholars and masters from our sister schools, and guests from distant lands. We are gathered here tonight to mark a milestone in the art of immortality, one which promises to usher in a new methodology for one of our oldest arts, the regeneration of the flesh. Now, many of the great works that have come out of Itson are the results of a slow, careful interweaving of many minds over many lifetimes. Tonight's work is distinguished by its abruptness. Despite its complexity and wide-reaching implications, it seems to spring fully formed from a singular mind with a singular perspective. This mind was turned toward one of the most difficult and delicate problems in physiomancy, the regeneration of the human eye. The dean continues his speech, but you tune him out to look at the crowd. All eyes are locked on the podium, and everyone appears to be listening with rapt attention. Rue herself is watching the dean as if she's in a trance. When you go back to listening, you're surprised by how lavish the dean's praise is. In a school full of octogenarian faculty that you know to be notoriously arrogant, here's the dean heaping compliments on someone less than half his age. After several minutes, he consents the speech winding to a close. And I believe it's a supreme source of hope for the future to have students like this at Itson Academy. But now, without further ado, let us hear some words from the scholar herself, Rue Okazi. Rue swallows hard as the dean spots her in the crowd and motions for her to ascend the podium. The deafening silence that descends as she slips between the front row guests and walks up the steps is enough to make your gut churn in anticipation. The dean steps aside, shakes Rue's hand, and puts a hand on her shoulder and raises his other arm to signal for applause. The sound of clapping hands rises like a wave, and subsides as the dean steps down from the podium. All eyes settle on Rue, as she carefully arranges her speech on the podium's surface. When she raises her eyes, you see her body go rigid. There are 1, then 2 beats of silence, and then you notice her eyes fall on someone next to you. You look over and find Master Bara standing there, looking up at Rue. You see him nod slightly. Rue wets her lips and looks back down at her speech, then clears her throat.
Thank you all for coming. It is rather overwhelming to see such distinguished scholars gathered in my honor. And of course, I'd like to thank the dean for the very, very kind words. I've been told my research seems, labyrinthian to those who are not familiar with it, so I want to take a few moments to, clarify some of the salient points. As she continues her speech, Rue looks up every few seconds from her page. However, her eyes always seem to look straight at Master Baras. It's like she's speaking only to him. Maybe it helps her keep from getting intimidated by everyone else. Rue speaks for a few minutes about the key points of her breakthrough, which include new ways to build delicate membranes and a novel method for mapping out the function of an organ. Naturally, this is only scratching the surface. If you'd like to understand the work in a deeper level, please ask for a copy of my research from one of the libraries. And of course, I'll be staying here for a while to answer any questions you may have. I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Rue clears her throat, and you see her raise her eyes from the podium again. They rest on Master Baras, who smiles.
Before I finish, I want to say one more thing. I originally came to Itzan at the urging of my tutor, Master Tarasia. When he asked me what I wanted to do with my life, I said I wanted to show that I had changed the world in some small way. That, to me, was worth more than money or accolades. When I came here, I found myself surrounded by people who were already so intelligent and exceptional and brilliant. I thought to myself, how can I ever compare? And then I met someone who saw my potential. He believed in me when I couldn't, and though he jokes about it, I think tonight belongs to him as much as it does to me. Thank you, Master Baras.
Baras breaks into a wide grin. You see tears begin to glint in his eyes.
And thank you to all of you at Itzan for giving me this chance.
The crowd erupts into a thunderous applause. The intensity of it seems to surprise Rue, whose eyes widen at the people cheering and clapping for her. She smiles uncertainly, gathers up her speech, and begins walking down the steps leading to the podium. As soon as her foot touches the floor, several dozen members of the crowd rush forward to get her attention. You follow and overhear some of what they're saying. Mr. Kazi, that was incredible. Do you happen to have a minute to... Mr. Kazi, let me be the first to congratulate you on... Several people thrust their hands forward to shake Rue's, and she takes them by instinct. Her eyes flick back and forth between the people speaking, as she seems to be listening to everything at once. When she has a moment to respond, Rue cuts through the cacophony of voices and gestures to the first person who spoke.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you all. It's quite literally overwhelming. But to your question about senescence.
Rue rattles off a series of answers to the questions thrown out a minute earlier, addressing each of them in sequence. To her amazement, the gathering of 30 or 40 scholars, who had been so raucous and chaotic a moment before, listened in perfect silence to Rue's soft voice. All eyes are fixed on her, and you see that some people are even taking notes on small pads.
That entails some inventiveness on the part of the practitioner. Were there other questions?
A few people politely raise their index fingers, and Rue points at the first. Masakaze, you have been studying the art of flesh regeneration for how long?
About 5 years, I think. Yes, 5 years, give or take a few months.
A murmur goes through the crowd as the scholars exchange looks. And forgive me for intruding, but how old are you now?
I am 25.
My goodness, how did one so young manage to achieve this much in such a short amount of time? Rue gives an anxious smile and shrugs, fiddling with the papers in her hands.
I usually work for 10 or 13 hours a day, in addition to my coursework. I've been told that's a little excessive. All I really do is work on my research.
More murmurs run through the gathered scholars, as well as a few chuckles. That is an astonishing work ethic.
Yes, well, thank you.
A number of people in the crowd finish writing their notes and begin walking away, and you see new people slip into their places close to Rue. After a few more barrages of questions, someone suggests sitting down at a table, and the group migrates to the large round table near the corner of the room. Rue sits down and folds her hands in front of her as dozens of people pull chairs from nearby tables and seat themselves as close as they can to her. Soon all the space around the table is full, and a few scholars on Rue's right side pipe up. Have you heard of the Fazari method of ventricle repair? It seems similar to what you described when regrowing blood vessels in the eye.
No, I haven't. What is that?
The table splits into 5 or 6 different conversations as scholars overhear one another, interject, join, and leave. It's a chaotic mess of half lectures, jokes, small talk, and gossip, all swirling around Rue. Despite the din of dozens of people talking over one another, you see that Rue is smiling like you've never seen her before. She's laughing, animated, seemingly deep in conversation with a handful of people at her sides. The people she's talking to smile and nod at what she says, and listen intently with their ears cocked toward her to try to catch every word over the noise. You walk around the table, catching snippets of the conversations, but you stop behind Rue and listen to her speak.
I think that's much more efficient than other methods.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I think your methodology is much more elegant and efficient.
Thank you.
You look over the faces of the people speaking to Rue, but you don't sense any subterfuge or boredom. They actually appear to be enjoying their conversation with her. In fact, some of them seem anxious to get her opinions on anything from her surgery to theory. For almost an hour, you drift around the table or stand behind Rue, listening to her talk at length about the intricacies of physiomancy. Some of it goes far over your head, but more than anything, you watch her face. She seems so much more alive than when you've seen her around other people. Her stutter nearly evaporates during the conversations, and soon her soft voice rises to be strong and confident. Her eyes move between the faces of her audience, and she speaks so quickly and eloquently that you have a hard time keeping up. It's like a river has been unleashed from inside her, and all of it's flowing out at once. She's full of smiles, cocked eyebrows, eyes narrowed in concentration, and unrestrained laughter. I forgot how funny she could be. Finally, Rue pushes back her chair and stands up.
Excuse me for just a moment. I need to get something to drink. My throat is parched.
Of course, we'll save your seat for you.
Thank you.
Rue strides off, making her way through the groups still scattered around the garden statues. You follow behind her, glancing at the lamps hanging overhead. As she passes by the clots of people standing around, several of them reach out and touch her shoulder, wave, or simply raise their glasses. Rue smiles bashfully and waits before walking on. She arrives at a table set with dozens of wine glasses and fancy hors d'oeuvres, picks up a glass, and turns around. Her eyes seem to look directly at you.
Oh, there you are.
Me? I wasn't going to leave without saying goodbye. You turn and see Master Barra standing behind you. He's still smiling.
How are you feeling?
Oh wait, that's Mars. How are you feeling? Overwhelmed? Exhilarated? Somewhere in between?
I think somewhere in between. I haven't really... These people are so nice.
Good.
So strange. I watched other people be surrounded by friends and talk so freely. And to do it myself, it feels like a dream.
Well, you've earned it. You've earned it all.
I'm glad I could make you proud.
It's bigger than me, Rue. You've done something that you should be proud of.
I am. I feel wonderful. This is also wonderful.
Then I'll let you get back today. Come by my office tomorrow and I'll have a little gift for you.
A gift? Oh, now I'm excited.
A letter from the Dean. Seems like he wants you as a faculty member next year. Rue's eyes widen, and you see a childlike smile spread across her face.
Really?
Master Barnes raises his empty glass, grins, and bats Rue in the shoulder. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Get back to your friends over there. They think they're waiting for you. Rue glances back and nods.
Oh yes, they saved me a seat.
Master Barnes winks at her and walks toward the exit. Rue watches him go, then begins to walk back toward her table. You see her spin around as she walks, turning in a slow circle so she can see everything. The people, the decorations, the statues, and the soaring ceiling of the Garden of Flesh. All for her. You smell the tang and perfume and the musty scent of books, and open your eyes to find yourself back in Rue's family library. I'm back here again, how nice. This time Rue is standing near the fireplace, listening attentively while two shapes sitting in the armchair speak. You'll be gone for 2 days and 3 nights with your brother and sister, which means you'll be left here alone. You're expected to wash daily, change your clothes, and continue your studies.
Yes, Mother.
In addition, I've left you a list of responsibilities. The shape, which you take to be Rue's father, hands her a paper with a neat set of numbered lines. They include answering some letters from your aunts and uncles, reviewing the account books in my study, and finding 2 new carriage horses. Montague can help you with the horses, but I expect you to accompany him to the stables. Montague? Well.
Yes, Father.
Good. Master Terrasi says you're making progress in your studies. It's time you learn how to manage your duties as an adult.
If you'd like to invite a friend over, or an acquaintance, you're more than welcome to, dear.
Indeed. You could do with some socializing. If you do decide to have guests, ask Montague to prepare the parlor and have the settings arranged 30 minutes before they arrive. Is all of that clear?
Yes, Father.
Good.
The grandfather clock in the library begins to toll, and you turn around to find that it's 4 o'clock. That means we're off, then. Remember, you are the woman of the house while we're gone. And if you get lonely, just let one of the serving women know. Rue bows her head and softly says something that you can't quite catch. You hear Rue's father sigh in exasperation. The two leave the library without another word. Rue watches them disappear into the hallway. You hear their footsteps echo down the hall until they disappear. As soon as they're gone, Rue runs to the second floor of the library and climbs a ladder to look through the glass panels. You climb another ladder and watch your parents' carriage roll away. Once it's disappeared into the distance, Rue runs out of the library. You hear her bound up the stairs beyond and return soon after. Out in the hallway, you hear someone exclaim, "Oh!" and hear Rue apologize. She rushes back into the library a second later, out of breath but eyes bright with anticipation. She has a ring of brass keys in her hands, along with a thick metal peg that looks like the key to a wind-up toy. She climbs the stairs to the huge telescope and sorts through the ring of keys. When she finds the one she wants, she inserts it into a small hole near the base of the telescope. The small metal cover on the eyepiece of the telescope slides away, leaving the glittering glass tin lens exposed. Rue glances over at it with a nod, then inserts the metal peg into a different hole. She turns it a few degrees and hears a soft mechanical creaking as the telescope shifts slightly on its base. You see her eyes light up, and she pockets the peg. Soon she springs back down the steps and climbing the small ladders connected to the library's bookcases. She hunts there around for about a half a dozen volumes, all of which she then stacks at the foot of the telescope. As she works, the weak sunlight shining through the windows gradually fades, leaving the library in shadow. Rue doesn't seem to notice it until it's pitch dark, at which point she lights a lamp and curls up in one of the armchairs with one of the books. She pores over the pages, but you notice her glancing up at the clock every few minutes. When you check the time, you're startled to find the hands moving at double speed. You look over at Rue and find her moving unnaturally quickly. It's not her, it's me. My perception of time is warped somehow. It's causing this. Suddenly, time returns to its normal flow. Rue gets up from her chair and moves over to the telescope. She gazes through the glass panels above, then leans down and fits her eye to the telescope's eyepiece. As she looks through the lens, you hear her give a small, soft gasp. You look up through the glass at the darkened sky beyond, and up at where Rue's telescope is pointed. Your mouth falls open as your eyes focus. Against the backdrop of endless stars, a vast river of purples, oranges, salmon reds, seem to be frozen across the width and breadth of the sky. Even more eye-catching, however, is the moon. The pale face of the full moon seems to hover just over the horizon, bright and clear. You've never seen it so big or so luminous. You can faintly see the crags and valleys of the moon's face, along with long, thin canals extending in all directions like spiderwebs. You'd heard that people once had cities on the moon, but it was a long, long time ago, thousands of years before Senkaku was even founded. You weren't quite sure if you believed that. All you knew about the moon was that ghosts came out at night to look at it, like there were moths drawn to the giant lantern in the sky. Rue glances back at the clock and marks the time down in a little notebook, then presses her eye against the telescope lens again. Come on, where are they? They should be there. You peer at the horizon, trying to see what Rue's telescope is pointed at. All you can see beyond the leafless trees and rolling hills is darkness. A few minutes pass, and you look down at some of the books that Rue had stacked near the telescope. You crouch down and pick one of them up. Its title is Astronomia Metaphysica, and seems to be a new edition. You open the cover and look down the table of contents, which seem to deal with optics, geometry, and astronomy. One chapter catches your attention. The properties are quartzite. Isn't quartzite that stone people use to see ghosts? The street peddlers who'd sell you fake ones. You turn to the chapter and skim through a few paragraphs. The quartzite, often called moonstone, is usually a poor candidate for creating magnifying lenses. In some rare instances, crystals of remarkable clarity and symmetry are produced. These crystals have been ground up by necromancers and amateurs alike into seeing stones, which have been used to see ghosts whose forms would otherwise be obscured from the naked eye.
Oh, I think.
You look up from the book and squint through the windows into the darkness, where a strange glow has begun to build on the horizon. Whatever it is, it illuminates the hills with shifting ethereal lights, like sunlight shining through water. It starts to rise into the sky, and you can see it begin to take form, like the frozen colors above. The lights are flowing like a river across the landscape. An aurora? You've heard of auroras before, mostly at the top of the world. There are all kinds of superstitions about them, like the rumor that being out at night during one would pull you off the street and into the sky. Senkaku had them a few nights a year, but you'd never dare to watch one. You hear Rue gasp, then see her look up from the telescope. But while her face is away from the viewing ports, you lean in and try to catch a glimpse of what she's seeing through the lens. You close your left eye and peer through the metal tube with your right. It takes a second for your eye to focus. When everything snaps into clarity, you nearly gasp yourself. In the shimmering green and blue light of the aurora, you can see hundreds of individual shapes, like people, flowing through the air. They look like they're floating underwater, pushed and pulled by invisible currents as they rise into the air. The stream of souls stretches all the way to the moon, wrapping around it and disappearing around the backside. You hear Rue kneel down again. You take your face away from the telescope just as she presses her face to the viewing port again. For a moment, her face passes through your cheek and you feel a cold shiver as her body overlaps with yours. You walk around the side of the telescope to get a better view. All you can see now is the shimmering, unearthly light of the aurora growing stronger. More streams of light begin to appear across the sky, meeting and merging like a confluence of rivers. After a few minutes, the entire night sky is blanketed by auroras. Looking up at them, it almost feels like you're at the bottom of the ocean, looking up at the shifting patterns of light on the water high above. It's beautiful. More beautiful than anything I've ever seen. You stare at the shifting patterns while your mind half-heartedly tries to make sense of them. There are patterns that work in the way that the auroras move and the shapes they make, but you can't quite grasp what they are. You look back at Rue, who's already sketching some of them in a notebook. Well, you also notice a short column of numbers near the margin. You turn back to the window and watch the sky. An hour passes and the auroras begin to warp and flow toward the moon, leaving the sky more and more empty as strands break off and disappear. Finally, after 2 hours, the only trace of the lights are a few scarce strings drifting across the air, phasing in and out of sight until they disappear completely. You walk back to Rue, who has filled over a dozen pages of her journal with rapid scrawlings and thumbnail sketches. When she peers through the telescope one last time, her gaze settles on one point in the sky, and you see her make a small, final note. You kneel down and look through the telescope while she writes. You manage to spot a single figure standing in the sky, looking up toward the moon. Their form is transparent, but their outline is tinged in blue and green. You can see long hair flowing from their head, and one arm reaching up toward the moon. Was it left behind? You lift your face away from the telescope and try to spot the ghost. All you see are stars. Rue picks up some of the books from her stack, starts flipping through the pages, searching for specific passages. She starts knowing the page numbers in her journal, and you're able to catch some of the passages. The moon has always been a source of fascination for ghosts. Many seem to be literally drawn to it. Many ghosts disappear from this earth without leaving behind questions or messages. But the establishment of monuments and family tombs keep them some grounded to this earth, and to their duty. Others seem bound by memories or connections to places, people, or objects. What causes a ghost to forsake this earth is unknown, but many scholars believe that some ancient memory calls to them. In any case, the auroras caused by the passing remain as beautiful, with somber reminders of loneliness of eternity and the never-ending solitude that awaits the dead. Rue lets out a heavy sigh and closes her notebook. She glances toward the clock, hears a small groan, and drags herself to the writing desk in the center of the room. She lights a candle and starts sifting through the letters with her cheek resting on her fist. She glances over the ledger, but her eyes quickly glaze over. Halfway through writing the second letter, she yawns and closes her eyes, then pushes aside the papers and lays her head down. Before you know it, she's already asleep in the desk, her soft breaths fluttering the stationery near her nose. Time begins to pass quickly again, and you watch Rue's body jitter unnaturally as she shifts in her sleep. After a few moments, sunlight begins to fill the room, rapidly illuminating the bookcases. You watch as 2 days pass, with Rue rarely leaving the library. She spends her nights sleeping curled up in one of the chairs, with a stack of books next to her. During the mornings and afternoons, all she seemed to do is read. By your rough count, she finishes 4 or 5 thick tomes, as well as several smaller volumes. The topics range from astronomy to history to metaphysics, and you see her take copious notes in her journal. During the evening, she spends hours peering through the telescope. The massive auroras do not return, but you glimpse some small, scattered lights in the sky. Throughout it all, servants come and go, rarely staying for more than moments before leaving Rue to her work. She rarely eats the meals they bring her, and her hair becomes more unkempt the longer you watch. So this is when she started building that habit, getting sucked into research, neglecting everything else. You feel a growing sense of dread as you realize that Rue hasn't done half what her parents had asked to do while they were away. On the evening of the second day, you see a small rain shower pass over the glass roof and watch a small waterfall pour through the opening in the front of their telescope. Rue frantically tries to retract the giant cylinder inside the roof so she can close the sliding glass panel, but by the time she does, a large pool of water has formed on the floor. She spends a long time trying to soak it up and draw out the books that were hit by the rain, even resorting to lighting a lamp and holding the books over a flame. Rue spends that night hunched over a few of the wet books, trying doggedly to smooth the wrinkled pages. Finally, on the morning of the third day, Rue wakes up early and rushes out of the library. Time is still passing rapidly, but she disappears long enough for you to see the hands on the clock move from 7 to 9 o'clock. You turn in place and look around the room, noting the piles of books stacked on the floor, the small towers of plates with half-eaten food, and scraps of paper scattered around. She really made a mess. Suddenly you hear the clear, sharp ticking of the clock. The shadows stop marching across the room and you realize that time has resumed its normal flow. You hear shouting from down the hallway, and then when you realize it's the voice of Rue's father. The door to the library opens and Rue's father strides in. He stops after a few steps, then turns around in a circle, looking at the mess Rue left behind. He slowly walks around the telescope's dais, gazing at the windows. Rue appears at the door, hands clasped in front of her. Brows are tightly knit together, and it looks like she's about to cry. Show me the place where the rain got in. Tentatively, Rue steps into the library and leads her father to the spot on the floor where the pool of water was. Looks down at it for a while, noting the way that the floor is warped slightly. And the books? Rue walks the stack of half-dozen books on the neatly nearby table and begins handing them to him one at a time. As he inspects each one, his face grows darker and darker. When he's finished, he takes one more look around the library and nods to himself. I can't be trusted to do a few simple things while I'm away. You can't be trusted with the library. You weren't trusted with the telescope, but you used it anyway. I gave you a very small chance to show me that you could be practical, responsible, or at least obedient. And this is what you do. Father, I managed to... Immediately, Rue's father spins around. Did I say you could speak? I don't care what little curiosities you found, you have to answer to this. And when you're done with that, you'll have to tell me what I should do with you. Your mother has tried to make me soft on you, but that evidently has not worked. No. I think things need to be different. Your sister and brother understood. Rue hangs her head and begins to sob. I'm sorry. No, you cannot cry yet. You have to face this and then cry after. I don't have time. Rue raises her head and tries to stifle her sobs. She wipes her face, but her eyes are screwed shut. Now listen to me and listen very, very closely. You will go to your room and bring me every book you have. You're going to bring me every trinket, every toy, and every model. I'm going to put them in the attic so that the only things left in your room are your bed, your clothes, and your desk. Every night from tonight onward, you're going to think about what you've done, and you're going to think about the future, about what role you're going to have in this family. And in 3 nights, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you what your plans are for the future. And if your answer doesn't satisfy me, look at me. Rue's father grabs her chin and forcefully tilts it open. Rue's eyes open a crack, and fully. Tears are spilling over her cheeks, and she can't stop herself from blinking. If you don't have an answer for me, a real answer about what you will make of yourself, then you won't be sleeping in this house anymore. Rue's father lets go of her chin and looks around the room one more time, his face hard and pitiless. As he does, he mutters to himself loudly enough for you to hear. You need to face reality sooner or later. Can't be a child forever. Can't stand it. He looks back at Rue, just staring at his chest and sniffing. Her whole body is shaking, and you can tell she's on the verge of sobbing again. Tarasio has been encouraging you.
Did they tell you to do any of this? Did you do it to impress him? Don't lie to me.
No,
Then why did you do it?
I did it because I was curious.
Rue's father stares at her for a long time. Rue glances up at him, then winces at his gaze. Clean it up, then bring me the things from your room. He strides out of the library, and Rue shuffles over to a stack of books. She starts shakily shelving them. They can tell she's having trouble seeing through the tears. One of the books falls from her hands, and she collapses to her knees, crying. Her sobs echo throughout the cavernous room, and the vast scale of the telescope, the shells, and the dome above make her seem even smaller.